Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting of August the 23rd. Yes. To begin with, I need to get an approval of the agenda, please.
Oh, so moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? 5, and we have Mr. Farnsworth joining us on via Teams and Ms. Crosby as well via Teams. Can I get a vote from the two of them?
Okay with me.
Thank you, Ms.
Aye.
Crosby. Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. So 7
Okay
and
with me.
0. Okay, before we get started, as many of you have heard, this past week or this past weekend, we have had a few of our staff, teachers and staff that have passed away. And if we could, before we get started, I would like for everyone to, let's just have a moment of silence in honor of them, please. Thank you very much. Each and every one of our employees are very, very important to us, and losing the few that we lost was very devastating to every one of us in one way or another. Each one of those have touched us. I think all the board members know each one of these probably personally, or at least the majority of them, and it's been a really rough weekend for each of us trying to deal with that. As we had said so many times before, with everything going on, anytime we have the loss of one staff member, one administrator, or one student, that's one too many. So it's really been a situation that has hit our district very, very hard, and it's caused every one of us to be in mourning for the 4 that we've lost, the families of those 4, and for the district family that are suffering for the loss of them within their schools. So thank you very much for that moment of silence. And I would like to I'd like to move on now, if I could, to just talk about some emails. I'm going to take the time here at the beginning before we begin the Pledge of Allegiance to talk about some emails that all of you, I know a lot of you that are here in the audience have sent emails and text messages and phone calls to every one of us board members. Rest assured, every one of those emails have been read. We talked about them together, you know, 1 or 2 of us talking, and we all empathize with everything that's going on with the not wearing of the mask and with the wearing of the mask. I guess the point that we want to make at this point is when we were elected to, part of the oath that we took was to uphold the laws of the state of South Carolina. Doing that, this is a law, the mask mandate, or the not wearing of the mask mandate is a law that was put into place by our governor. We were elected to uphold those laws. At this point, our board agrees that that is the route that we need to take, because we have spoken with several attorneys, our in-house attorney, we've spoken with our external attorneys, we've spoken with several people that are within the law, we've spoken with some of our delegation members who are attorneys. We have been advised that that is the route that we need to take at this point. There are a few districts within the state, and I will say a few. We've got, at this point, I think we've got 3 districts that have chosen, out of the state of South Carolina, that have chosen to go against that law. They're now going to be tried in the circuit court. So Are they wrong? We don't know. You guys don't know. No one knows if they're wrong. No one knows if the mask is the way to go or the mask is not the way to go. This virus is something that has just totally confused every one of us. And none of us up here are doctors. I don't know how many out in the audience are, but none of us are. And we've tried to listen to the doctors. We've tried to listen to the scientists. But it keeps changing. What they say keeps changing from day to day. So we're in a situation where we don't know what to do. We don't know what is the right thing to do. So all we can do is what we're mandated to do, because we think our moral values are very important. I don't think that we would be teaching our children the right thing to do if we go against the laws of the state of South Carolina. And we believe that morally we are correct in saying that we have to stay the course that we are right now. Don't know that it's going to be this way next week this time, because we don't know what's going to happen. There is a situation, there's something going on right now where a lot of the delegation is trying to get everybody to go back to the State House and revamp this mandate. They want to go back and they want to change this. So we don't know. Next week this time it may be changed. But as far as today, this minute, we're going to stay the course, which is what we feel is morally and ethically correct, and that is to abide by the state of South Carolina rules. So, okay, so now if we could stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is our school highlights. Ms. Rayner.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, members of the board. We're going to start this evening's meeting with a little bit of a retrospect of this time last week, seems like a year. It was a long week. On August the 16th, we welcomed our students back face to face, and there were smiles everywhere. I think what was so energizing was to see the interaction between the faculty and the staff and all of our students at every school that we went to. All of the district staff did go to all of our schools each day to be there to help and assist with the first week of school, to observe anything that might need tweaking or any operational issues that they could identify. So they got to experience the magic of the first week of school. I think that the principals, when we were asking them to interview with some of the media, all of our television stations visited schools, our Post and Courier. I hope you all saw the August 17th issue of the Post and Courier, when our principal at Flowertown Elementary was all over the front page as she welcomed students back. So it just was great for our whole community at this time that we're in, where we don't have open doors for all the visitors we would like to due to the medical situation or health situation, that they got to experience some of the wonderful things going on last week. And what was also so very touching, as each day, people from the community as well as organizations did come and deliver school supplies. It culminated, and you'll see on the last slide, at Windsor Hill Elementary School, where Trident United Way, representing businesses from all over the region, came to the school on Meet the Teacher Night and distributed a book bag to every child at Windsor Hill, filled with supplies. We are truly blessed to be in a community that values their public schools, and that was certainly on display last week. And I don't want to rain on Mr. Pye's parade. He is a numbers guy and likes to monitor specifically our student population because it impacts so much. Teachers, funding, all of those things. And what we saw last week was every day an increase in attendance in our schools, and today was no different. And I'll let Mr. Pye talk to that during his state of the district. So welcome to the 2021-2022 school year, and I can say even on these unusual times, as Mr. Pye says, normal with caution, it was still the magic still there in DD2 schools, so we're glad to be back in session, so thank you. Next, it's our pleasure tonight to announce a great opportunity for our teachers that we will be sending a big announcement out tomorrow. The district has entered into a partnership, a district partnership with Donors Choose. And Donors Choose, for those of you that don't know, is a national nonprofit that began in the year 2000 by a teacher to help connect teachers and their needs in the classroom with businesses, the community. So people want to know, how can we help? This is the platform that they can. Many of our teachers have participated in Donors Choose for a number of years. In fact, we got some statistics from the organization, and over the years, our district teachers have received over $1 million in classroom supplies for, I believe, I was astounded, 2,400 separate projects. So we have moved to the next level. We've been invited and have pursued, thanks to Dr. Wilson, the opportunity to be a district partner. We're going to be one of 6 districts in South Carolina. And what this means for our teachers will be, we have our own web page on the National Donors Choose website. So whoever can go on, if they want to help Dorchester District 2, all of our teachers can create the needs they have in their classroom. So it's just focused on our school district. It connects us with national organizations and businesses that our teachers can benefit from. It's a well-organized process that our teachers apply. It is vetted by Donors Choose. Then they actually purchase the items with the monetary donations and ship it to the teachers. So we're very excited about this. And one of the key things that we've already seen is that Donors Choose partnership districts are notified of major fundraising efforts of organizations. And in the month of August, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donated several $1 million to Donors Choose. And we had 12 of our teachers that were received those grants. So they will be receiving supplies through that initiative. So we couldn't be more excited and just wanted you to know about it. We'll be sending out a press release, and we will be training teachers on how to use the network. I say manipulate, but it is a bit of manipulation, I guess, to really benefit from the generosity and support of the public, not just in our community, but all over the country. So we are thrilled to be a part of this opportunity. So any questions about it?
Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you. Okay, next is public comments on agenda items, and we do not have any. So we're going to move to the approval of the minutes. Board member, in your package, you should have received the meeting minutes of August the 9th, 2021. I need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Crosby. Thank you, Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Okay, 7
Yes.
and 0. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, 6 and 1 abstention. Okay, next on the agenda is Superintendent's report. Mr. Pye.
All right. We had a very good start to our opening of the school year, as we normally do, even though we've come off of a rough last year and a half. I think teachers and students I know they were very excited to be in school at every age level. Of course, we had district office staff assigned to each of the 25 schools, and I was assigned to Ashley Ridge, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching how well-behaved the kids were those 3 days I was there, mannerly, and I know they were reminded by their administrators. They got off the bus and they said, before you're in the building, you have to take off those hoodies and those hats and things. Nobody jumped their case about get it off. Why was it on the bus? We didn't go there. And the kids listened to them and did it. I watched them one after another, and everybody was saying good morning to each other, and it went fine. First, they were a little hectic because a lot of kids had not registered, picked up their schedules. A lot of them had noticed when we said go to first period that they maybe didn't have a first period class. So once that was over with, the second day things went much smoother. Our buses were very late the first day throughout the entire school district, as they always are. Of course, it was a downpour second to none every morning, so it only made it worse. We're short about 7 or 8 bus drivers. Of course, we have some out on various leaves, so it may be 15, 20 altogether. And we doubled up some routes, and I think they did quite well considering what they dealt with. And it's gotten better every day. I know at Ashley Ridge, it was nearly 10 o'clock the first day when that last bus rolled in, but everybody else had been there by 9:30. This morning, all buses were there by 9:15. Still not what it should be, but it's improving. And of course, we're looking at other ways to make it maybe more efficient and better. We talked about it a great bit this morning in my staff meeting. But the kids were very happy. A lot of teaching, a lot of learning. You have the halls going on in the school building. Many of the schools, it appeared as if nothing had changed since back in maybe March or April, like it was just another day at school, and things were very organized and like it should be. Our 4K all-day kindergarten started today. We have 29 all-day classes, y'all. That's so good for us. We only had 3. We now have 29. With some grant money from South Carolina, we were able to get that in the State Department and make that happen. That's a great way to get our young kids off to a good start. So that goal we put last year that we said we would explore has mushroomed into it's there. It started today, full house, everybody with bells on. We were able to move teachers around. We had in the elementary, we're not as high as we had predicted. We're way over the high schools, and we're about where we're supposed to be in middle, but we're lower in elementary, which allowed us to do some shifting around to make sure all positions were covered, as there are no more teachers available that I know of anywhere. Every district scrambling. Many districts have 30 and 40 and 50 teachers they're looking for. We were looking for 2. At last count, it may be back to 3 or 4. So we're blessed that that's the kind of number, because we're short, like I said, bus drivers, short lunchroom workers, and we had some problems with lunchrooms the first couple of days, just a shortage of workers to get enough people to get the food out in a timely fashion, and we're working on that. And so custodial, every one of our departments, we have a shortage. And so we're trying to make do. We're doubling up and moving people about. Principals are covering class. I know at Greg did today, there was not a teacher for PE, and the principal, Mr. Wilson, did. He was serving as a teacher till that sub got there or whatever. So we know they're doing what they can under the circumstances that we have. So I'm very proud of our principals and our teachers for stepping up to the plate, as always, and taking lemons and making lemonade out of it. They do the best they can. I'm real proud of our staff. With that in mind, I know we've got some other issues I want to talk about as we get there, but first of all, school numbers. As of the 6th day, which is today, we have 25,247 students. That's already more than we had last year. And so we are looking for we need 25,600 to meet all the numbers for allocations and all the things that we did. Contrary to belief, we are not looking for anybody for any money purposes. Yes, we're funded on the teachers, but we received $40 million in COVID money that can be used to do what we need to do to fill in the gaps that we have. And so we're using all those things. So we're not married to that. No decisions are being made like in past years. We don't have to do that. We can really do what is the best interest for our kids all the time. So we need about 350 more. And this is the 6th day. And of course, we have 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then we have Labor Day. The weekend after Labor Day, usually we get a group of children then. So I think we're well underway, and we'll probably get 500 or 600 more. So I feel real good about the numbers. It's just, I'm a little concerned that they're so heavy at the high schools. Some of the high schools passed 3,200. Fort Ashley Ridge is staring down at 2,400, and we've got Fort right there with them, right behind them. So the 3 high schools are really big, and that's where we've seen the most growth. We saw that last year, and we've seen it again this year. And of course, middle schools are coming about as we expected. We know that the attendance areas of Gregg and DuBose tend to produce a lot of new homes and new students, and that's where we are seeing the influx. And the rest of them are about where we thought they would be. So with that, like I said, all the teachers, but like I said, maybe 2, and it could be up to 3 or 4. I didn't think a teacher had to leave this last week for personal reasons, so maybe we have 3 openings. And transportation, we're really working hard with trying to fill in those gaps. We're looking at offering employment to extra employment to any of the bus drivers that want to work beyond their 6 hours. Because of the way the bus routes go, that maybe they can help us in some of the cafeterias. Same thing with the adult support folks. Any of our workers that the extended day counselors, they don't come into 2 o'clock, 1:30. Well, lunches are over by that time, so they could assist. And we have a good group of folks there. So we're hoping to fill in some of those gaps that we can get that food out, have the best quality and the best efficiency of serving it. So that's a positive for that department. And then, of course, we're working on communication issues. No matter what, we've got so much on our website, and I know it's all there, but you got to have a lot of time to sit and navigate and look for it. And just what happened at the last meeting doesn't tell the story of how it got there. So sometimes we've got a concern about why we're doing this. You have to go back and look at 5 or 6 or 7 previous meetings, and then you begin to see how it unfolded, and maybe why, whether you agreed or not, at least how it happened. And so, and everybody doesn't have that kind of time. So we're looking at ways to maybe beat that up. We don't know if the robocalls, as a lot of parents say, they've let us know they don't want to be called again, reminded of all the things we remind you of at school. You get called all the time. But at the same time, things like with this COVID issue, that maybe that's an update we can do more often that you would appreciate, that's short and simple, but tells you kind of the lay of the land and what we're having, and maybe a discussion we're going to have at a board meeting, or perhaps a decision that was made or something new that's happening that's going to affect our school system. Even though it may be in the press, we would like to directly tell you and tell you how you can get additional information. Maybe guide you to the webpage that if that's the case, if it's too lengthy to put there, or have handouts and things in the school that as you take your children there, stop in and get that information that you're seeking. Or call people within the district that we can give you personal help. And so at this time, I want to talk more about the things we're trying to do and we're looking at, because we have lots of questions about quarantining the students. We have lots of questions about how this happens, why we don't do this. And Ms. Hughes did a wonderful job explaining our marriage to the proviso. Whether we like it or don't like it, that's not an issue. It's a law in South Carolina, and we will abide by the law. Yes, it's a different law than what DHEC wants and what other organizations have. But if you read their stuff closely, they start off with a mandate, but then they contradict what they say at the very end, or they leave it up to chance. It's not as finite. There's other little rules. In other words, you can do this, you can do that, and I hope Amanda will capture that, because on quarantine, the 14 days versus the 10, there is a small print that explains why it's the 14 over the 10, what a district has to do, and I want to make sure she brings that to focus. Amanda, are you out there? Come on. You haven't left yet. You stayed with us, right? I thought maybe you'd run away.
I'm here. Hi, everybody. So as Mr. Pai said, we know that this is a very hot topic right now, and there's been a lot of questions about quarantine, who requires it, who mandates it, who makes the rules. So we wanted to just kind of clarify that a little bit. Quarantine is a requirement. It's required that as a school district in South Carolina, we quarantine individuals who have a known COVID exposure. So we don't get a say in that. It's something that we have to do. One aspect of quarantine that has come up recently is options for reduced quarantine. As of January of this year, the CDC released some options for shortening quarantine. 7 days, 10 days, depending on a negative test in a certain time frame, and symptoms or no symptoms. With that being said, the CDC and DHEC at the very bottom of their criteria for those shortened quarantine options state that certain criteria has to be met in order for that to be something you can implement. The criteria says that the individual who's returning early from a 14-day quarantine must be masked and must be social distanced, which unfortunately is not something that's possible in our schools at this time. So DHEC is continuing to require that we quarantine students and recommend that we stick to the 14 days based on the inability for individuals to be masked and to social distance. So again, we know that that's a big discussion that has come up, but we wanted to just clarify that. We have also gotten some questions about whether or not there's a threshold for closing down cohorts, closing down classrooms, closing down a school. At this time, there's no set threshold that would warrant us to just arbitrarily put an entire group of students out. We carefully watch our cases as they come in to ensure that, you know, if they are linked to other cases, we're monitoring that and quarantining anybody necessary. But there's no set number at this point where a school would get to a certain percentage and we would say that those students all have to go on virtual learning or be out of school or be quarantined. So it really is very dependent on that specific situation and those specific close contacts. We don't just put out whole groups of students unless that's, you know, something that we're required to do because they were in close contact. One other thing we wanted to talk about was those notifications. So previously, we were making notifications to parents of close contacts via a phone call. Due to the sheer volume of cases that we're seeing at this point, that's no longer something that's possible. So we're implementing a process. We're working on setting that up this evening so it can go into effect tomorrow, where all close contacts of a COVID case will be sent a call out. It'll be hopefully a text message, an email, and a phone call. It will have all of the same information that I typically provide when I call those parents, and it will have contact information so that they can call back or email back with any questions. We think that this kind of kills two birds with one stone. It makes it more manageable and makes parents get that information in a more timely fashion, and it also gives them something in writing to review, because we know that often when I call them, they're not thinking of all the questions that they might have, and so we think that this will help eliminate a lot of the confusion around when their return date is, what they should do, when they should get them tested, if they need to be tested. All those kinds of things will be covered in that call out. So with that being said, do you guys have any questions for me about any of that or anything else COVID related?
I just want to make a comment, just to expand a little bit on the DHEC return early.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for us not being able to accommodate the mask and the social distancing, the social distancing, because of the numbers Mr. Pai just gave, we don't have the space available to social distance. And the mask, because of the governor's mandate, we are not able to mandate or hold anybody to that, even though DHEC says that's the way it has to be. So that's the reason why we're not able to abide by those DHEC guidelines to bring them back early.
Exactly, yes.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Another questions we've been getting most recently is, when the students are quarantined, how is instruction going to continue? We've asked we don't know, and there's not a set bullet anywhere out there. You know, last year we had everybody do the e-learning, hybrid learning, and then face-to-face, and that's how it was. People have been asking, are we planning to go back to any of those models at this time? That's not in the plan that we're using. We really want the kids face-to-face. We need them here. Our hope is that finally, politically, whatever's going on out there, they'll settle with it, and we can have some kind of togetherness on where we're going with this, so we can get kids educated and safely. And so that is our major concern, and it's really out of our control. However, I've asked each school to do their own way of dealing with children who are absent, and most of our teachers call them daily if it's just 3 or 4 in the class, and not all teachers have them out in their rooms, and if somebody's got a bunch of them, that could be a problem for them, but generally I think they can handle a phone call out. They've been prepared packets. Parents can pick those up to do the work. It's online. The teacher does activities online that she provides to that student so they can keep up to the 10 days. No, it's not the exact instruction they would have in the classroom, but they are given meaningful instruction that's going to help cover those 10 days to prepare them. Tomorrow we have an all-day administrators meeting in which our whole agenda is around finalizing a district model. Now, it may end up being something different from elementary than high school. Sometimes that happens, but we would like a district model of what is that going to be, if at all possible. So parents know what to expect, and we know what to expect back from the students. So that's an important piece that we think when we get that out, that's going to help a lot as the students going out. Today we have 1,419 students out today that have registered, that are here. They've shown up, or we know they're here. They're on our rolls, almost 1,500. The last 4 years, it's been in the 370 range, almost identical every year, 360, 370, maybe 350. So it's almost 5 times the amount of students are out. So a lot of those are quarantined. They're not positive cases, thank goodness. But again, you don't know what's happening with those kids while they're home because of this time period that they have to have. So because of that, we have to do something. Those are not numbers when you have 25,000 students that you would be fearful you'll close a school system down. But this thing could get away from us in no time flat, and you've got an issue in which you would be facing those things. Where there was the district, Pickens, I guess it is, up around Clemson, the upper part of the state. The first week of school, they had to call school off for 5 days, which is all the state's going to let you do, and do virtual. See, there are caps on us doing those things. So all those are out there. A lot of you may not know it's not we just can't decide we're going to do virtual tomorrow morning. You can't do virtual with more than 5% of your students. 5%. That's the rule. Well, 5% of 25,000 is what? 1,000, 1,200, 1,500. It's not much. We got 800 in there now. So we might could double it, but that'd be the best we could do. So it's not open season to do that. So the state put it that way because they wanted to be back face-to-face for the learning loss that the children suffered earlier, last year and a half. They're trying to make that time up. And we have every indication that our teachers did a fabulous job last year in spite of it, because our tests, they came out, no, are they where they should be? No, but considering we weren't in school but those few months, we did real well, y'all. We're in single digits below where we were the last time we took the test. Single digits. Maybe it's 9% to 8% a grade. That's not what I'd like to see. I'd like to be 8 and 10% above. But that's phenomenal for the amount of time we missed. So with the summer stuff that we're doing, and now the way the teachers are teaching with the use of the devices and other things, teaching is taken to another level. But our teachers, unfortunately, have had a lot on their plate. They have their personal families that they're dealing with and their own personal health issues and things that can sidetrack them. But we're trying to do everything we can to keep our teachers up, energized, and ready to roll with our students. But we've got to keep them energized and ready. We're going to ask the parents to make sure they help us to make that happen. So they come to school, they come to learn, not to cut up to play. Let's get serious. Let's maximize what we're teaching, make sure that no matter what we teach, we make sure those core courses, those basics are heavily taught, so we build that foundation for these children to progress and to grow. So that is our philosophy, and that tomorrow we will hopefully have that this time tomorrow. It might be this late, and later in the week we'll be announcing that to you. And that may be your first phone call from us to say, go to the website and see the plan, or we can explain it in 2 minutes or under, and where it's reasonable for you to understand, and text it to you. And also you have it in different mediums. I don't have a problem with any of those measures. So that's where I am. I've said one last thing, the virtual update. I would like, one other thing before I do the virtual update, Constitution Day, some folks have asked me about that. It's September 17th. We've always observed that as a district, And this year, all schools have observed it, kindergarten through 12th grade. Can I guarantee every teacher has always done it to the level that was expected? I don't know. But I know a lot of teachers do it throughout the year. And of course, if you're teaching government in those classes, you do it all year. That's your course. That's what it's about. So a lot of that does happen. But we're doubling up because we didn't have the children last year. We have them this year, so we'll be doubling up with our schools to make sure they share the things they're doing. And that's an important day for all of our students, that we will make sure we dedicate that valuable time. And I'm encouraged that not just be that day, that be throughout the year, but particularly that day ought to be special to our children. So I wanted to put that to rest tonight. All right, with that said now, and I guess I've covered most everything here. Let's go, and I mentioned the survey, the possible survey. Did I mention that for communication? We're thinking of doing a survey. We're going to ask you, how do you feel about those robocalls? How do you feel about texting? What about the web? Is it useful? What can be done to make it more useful? Is it too much information? You know, I mean, we just need some opinions. We can do anything that needs to be done. And pleasing everybody's going to be impossible. But if there's something we're not doing that we can add to make it better, fine. But we don't want to harass you with too much and confuse you and say, this is getting old now. Pat Rayner sent me one thing on Monday. My teacher sent something on Tuesday, and doggone, here's the principal on Wednesday send the same note. 3 times I heard you the first time. And I know how that is because I'm one of those people. I'm the superintendent, and I get messages about the Hairpin Days and all those things. I'm glad at first to know those messages are going to the public. But I mean, it's annoying how many times their phone is ringing to give the message. This is Dorchester District 2. I'm going, we got something wrong with that machine because it's this is not the first time I've heard that tonight, and they're repeating it. But I guess for some people, they need to hear it more often because your child may be answering the phone and just hang it back down, and you never hear that message. And so that's why we're trying to make sure you get it. Now, with that, then I will now go to end it with the virtual update, virtual initiatives that we're doing. Dr. Harrison.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Pye. The Virtual Academy is up and rolling. First, I would like to apologize for those Blackboard messages. There'll be 3 more coming out to our virtual families this week, reminding about the food pickup, curbside pickup. So, but anyways, I understand that. Want to give you a quick update of the Virtual Academy numbers, how we got to where we are, and how we're kind of working through some things currently with the Virtual Academy. We have 656 students total. Our high schools are serving 310. Our middle schools are serving 233, and our elementary schools are serving 113 as of right before this meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, I was sending a message that we had 2 students that came out. We had 115 purchased seats with Low Country Virtual, and so we have 2 students that will be going in. So that number will go up by 2 tomorrow. So we'll have 115 in Low Country Virtual being served through that model. How did we get to this point? Back in March on the 25th was our deadline to apply for families for the Virtual Academy. And families applied, and then they went through an approval process with our schools where we looked at criteria to see if a student was successful, had attendance issues, and met that criteria to be approved into the academy. And once those families were approved, we worked on developing our current model, which at our secondary level is our high schools and our middle schools have created within their master schedules, like we did last year, virtual sections to serve our virtual students built into their schedule. So you may have a teacher teaching 2 classes face-to-face, and then they have 2 classes where they're teaching all virtual, not necessarily at the same time. And as you're aware, our elementary students are being served through our partnership with the Low Country Education Consortium through Low Country Virtual. That is that 115 seats that our district reserved based on how many people applied and were accepted into our academy. even though we had that deadline, a lot of things moved and changed, and as you all know, we worked with our families, mask on, mask off. We went through that process with our families. A lot of folks wanted in, wanted out based on that decision, so we worked with our families, but still, families had to go through the same process. They had to get on a wait list. They had to go through the approval process, just like everyone else that was accepted into the academy. We still currently, to this day, we're working on with our families. We have a wait list. We've had about 200 families either want in or out. So our wait list overall has been about 200 families, and as of today, we work with most of our families. We still have about 73 that are on our wait list that we're still working through. So our schools, our principals, our teams have been working diligently as space comes available, whether a student moves or a student prefers to come out, and then we can swap students into those seats. We've been doing a great job of doing that and making sure that we can accommodate those families. Also working with our partners at Minimum, Low Country Virtual to serve our students. So that kind of is where we are at this point. I don't know, and when we respond to families, we never say that we can guarantee a spot, because I don't know if I'm gonna have a fourth grader that wants out tomorrow and we can swap in. It gets complicated the higher you go up. When you get to the high school level, you're not just looking at a fourth grader and a fourth grader. You're looking at the four core and then their electives. Can we accommodate a switch? So a lot of things have to match up perfectly the higher you go up in order to make those changes for our families and to make that accommodation. So that's where the virtual academy is, and I'll take questions.
Any questions?
What are the hours?
They're the same as the school
same?
hours. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you.
We run on the same schedule.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's my
That,
presentation.
can I just say, and I know all of us feel this way, my most sincere gratitude to our teachers. I just can't thank you enough, and I know that everybody feels this way. For some reason, I've been around a lot of little kids this last week. It's fun. And they idolize their elementary teachers right now. I mean, they're on a pedestal. And high school teachers don't always get the same, but nobody's complaining. I have not heard teenagers or anybody complaining. And I just want to thank you personally for all you're doing. I know it's very trying at times, but it's appreciated, and you're changing lives. And I don't want to put Ms. Wimberly on the spot, but I know that she visited a couple of elementary schools, and could you just, the feeling that you got too?
Absolutely. I actually visited one elementary school, one middle school, and one high school, and it honestly was fantastic. The kids are so happy to be back in school. There is a sense of just normalcy, and everything just feels good. The teachers are doing a phenomenal job from everything that I could see. I got to look into classrooms. I got to see what's happening with lunches. I got to see, kids transitioning and working. And Mr. Robinson is right. The teachers they're already building those relationships with their students. And it's fascinating because at the elementary level, there is an adoration, but the older you get, there's still a relationship there, and you can see it, and I can see it with my own children, and now I have high school children, and it's really neat to see how much they look up to those teachers, especially the ones who take the extra time to, they're already getting to know these kids. So the feelings in the schools right now, it's really conflicting because we've had such a rough start with what's happened, and I know that we are all heartbroken about that. And when you walk in that school, the feeling that you have is completely different, because these kids want to be there, and they are happy, and our teachers want to be there, and they're clearly doing what they love. And so it makes it very difficult to process, because on the one hand, you're heartbroken about this, but on the other hand, you think, man, this is what needs to be happening, and thank goodness that it is, and that, we're doing this. And so, yes, I share a huge just sense of gratitude that I know this entire board feels. We are so grateful that these kids are in school, and that we have such amazing teachers and staff who are just going above and beyond to make that happen. And the sacrifices that we are seeing, we are aware, we know how hard you're working and everything that you're doing right now, and just please know that we are very grateful.
Thank you, Ms. Wimberly. Anybody else? Okay. Are you done, Mr. Pye?
I'm done, thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is our financial report.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Mr. Pye. Tonight, we are presenting our June 30, 2021 financial reports. Typically, we present a comparison, but at this time last year, we didn't prepare unaudited reports. It was during the time that we were shut down at the school, and we were working remotely, so we just kept working right through, and we prepared final reports. So I don't have the comparison numbers to last year, but I can tell you how we ended up with our audited figures versus our unaudited. Our auditors are coming in to see us the middle of September, so we're working now to close out last year's books. And we are in good shape. Our total assets as of June 30th, 2021, at this time were $67,601,926. At the end of last year, we ended up with $65 million for our assets. Our liabilities were at $28 million at this time, and last year they were at $31. And our fund balance looks great this year. Again, we still have some adjustments that we have to make. Last year, our fund balance increased $3 million, and if we stay on the same track where we are, we'll increase our fund balance by $6 million, which would make us finally over our 15% cap, which we have a proviso that allows us to be over the limit this year. Hopefully, we'll be able to repeal that. So we are finally at the limit, at the minimum recommendation that the GFOA recommends, to have 2 months' worth of expenditures in your savings account, which is our fund balance. So we finally reached that. So we're doing good. On the next page, you'll see our schedule of revenues and expenditures. We had been talking about how our property taxes, we were waiting for our fee in lieu of taxes, which we said the county's promises was coming. Well, it finally came through, and it came through very well. So we actually received more in our local property taxes than we had budgeted, so that was wonderful, especially to make up for the amount of the EFA revenues that we did not receive because we had 1,200 less elementary students last year. So at this time, we are very close to reaching what our revenue projections were of $215,143,813 was our actual so far June 30th. You can see, however, on the expenditure side that we are much lower than what we had anticipated spending for our expenditures for the year. You'll see that our instructional was well under. I did want to point out that there should have been a reclassification. We weren't able to do a budget amendment this year. We were waiting for the state to send us updated numbers, and they never did. So we never brought y'all an amended budget to true up some areas. We should have changed up where our admin interns were coded. You'll see that the school management accounts, just a little bit below, look like they're higher, but because the instructional was lower, that's where those two should have been flip-flopped, so we were still in good shape for that. Again, our business services, we had unemployment charges that were completely unbudgeted because of the pandemic, and we had some additional technology charges last year. So we do have a couple more transfers to make. Another item that I wanted to note was transfer to food service. In the past, we've had to transfer quite a bit of money to food service to cover them. This year we have not. We would have made an adjustment during our budget amendment, but again, we didn't make one. So we will not be transferring that $1 million to food service, which I'll tell you about in a second. But we are required to transfer some money to cover for fringe benefits for the employees that are under the food service. So that will be coming out of here. But as you can see right now, that's where our increase is showing for the increase in our fund balance. Right now, we're showing a profit of $6 million. And again, that's due to schools being shut down for an entire month. They were on hybrid, so only half the students were in the classes at one time. And we just weren't spending as much money as we typically had budgeted. On the next page is the food service fund, which I was alluding to a minute ago. Our total assets look very healthy compared to where we were last year. And what looks even better is that our net change in fund balance shows that at this moment, before we make a few other adjustments, we are looking like we're $900,000 to the good, which we had met with Sodexo and told them that we would like to do a true-up meeting with them at the end of this year after all of our numbers flow through, to see about adjusting our per meal price with them, because we received more from the feds, from the USDA to cover the meals, because they knew that the participation wasn't as great as it has been for COVID, and the meal prices were high, the cost for meals was more, so they sent us more money. So we would like to meet with them to true that up with them. They've been a really good partner with us, and they've helped us through this horrible time, so we'd like to give back some of this additional money to them since we received it from the USDA. So on the next page is our revenues and expenditures for the food service fund, and we received $6,911,951 for revenues, and our expenditures were $5,974,341. So next we have our school balance reports. And again, I just want to start off by saying that this was a very unusual year for our schools. Some of the schools were able to spend, if you look in the middle two columns, again, this is unaudited. We still have a few adjustments that need to be made for these schools. But some of them were able to spend in the expenditure column the same amount that they received in receipts. So some of them were doing very well. Others spent more of their general fund school accounts, which you don't see reflected on here. These are mainly their school operating and their trust accounts. So some of the funds that you can see look higher than they were at last year, but they also had some carryover money from the prior year as well. So we just wanted to point that out, that not all of the money that came in was spent in this current year. However, next year, this current year, hopefully we'll get back on track, and they'll be able to have events, and they'll be able to hold their club meetings, and they'll be able to spend some more of their monies that they receive. I will point out that we were talking about the high schools last time, and for Dorchester High School itself, they have 85 clubs in their trust accounts. So they keep track of 85 different accounts, and so the total of those is what makes it look so high. I was talking with Mr. Aldridge earlier, and there were some invoices that were paid out, and just like what Mr. Pye was talking about last time, for their cheer uniforms, that they received the money early, but the invoices didn't come in until after June 30th. Same with their yearbook. So that's why that balance looks a little bit high. But we keep in touch with them, and everything.
I think our concern is we want to make sure that any money collected was used on those children.
Right.
Particularly if they paid the money.
Right.
The money is refunded if we didn't do the event.
Right, and we absolutely did that.
I did not carry it forward to the next class because that money was ready for that class.
So if you look at your receipts versus your expenditures column, most of those, you can see where the receipts came in, the expenditures went out, and they're pretty even. They did have some carryover. Some of them have been saving up from the prior year, but most of the revenue, receipts and expenditures for this year were right on. So that was everything that I had for the financial report and the school balances. If anybody has any questions.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept reports as informational.
Is that Justin?
Yes.
Yes.
What did he say?
Go ahead, Justin, if you have a question.
No, I'll just make a motion to accept the financial reports as information only.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Okay, I have a motion to accept the financial report as information. I need a second? Second. Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7-0.
Okay, wonderful. Now we have our ESSER spending plan that we would like to finalize with y'all after many months of public input and community surveys and board workshops. We have finally gotten to the point where it's time to submit our plan to the state, which will happen tomorrow. So again, we got public input, which we were so happy to hear that the public felt the same that we felt in the district. The areas to hit were class size reduction, to support the students with educational technology, to help with mental health supports, and to definitely address learning loss. And that was one of the items that the state really was pushing for us to make sure that we focus on. So on the next slide, we'll show you our plan. So these are the categories that we showed you last time. We have a couple of adjustments. Our allocation was $40,526,982. And of that amount, the learning loss that we were required to spend to at least address the learning loss was $8,105,396. We can see in column, category 11, the learning loss, we have allocated $19,623,186, which equals 48% of that $40 million. So this is a plan over the next 2 years. We also have some money in this current ESSER spending plan that we were in the ESSER 2 plan to carry us through this year, and this will get us through the FY24 year. So we felt that that was very good so that we could address learning loss. I did want to point out that we included some sanitation services and supplies in this set of funding. We had purchased a lot in our prior funds, but in our prior plans, but with everything that's been happening, and we were just in here for a meeting a little bit ago, and then they came through and they cleaned, so we're still going to beef up our cleaning and continue with that. So I wanted to make sure that we included some in this round of funding as well. So for the learning loss, I just wanted to point out really quickly, one of the things that Mr. Pye was talking about, and also Amanda alluded to, well, she didn't allude to it, she actually told us that we had so many additional students that have been out on quarantine, and we're meeting with the principals tomorrow, as Mr. Pye said, that we're trying to come up with a way that these students will not fall behind. So in order for them to not have more learning loss, the state has told us that if we were to have our teachers teach in dual modality, where they are teaching face-to-face and online, so if some of the students who are in quarantine come online, that we are to pay them. And so that was happening last year, and the teachers just got burned out, I think, poor things, and so the state has said, you must pay your teachers. So we included some funding in this category for learning loss to cover that, so that the students will not get further behind. We just have so many more cases now. We felt like that was really going to happen. Mr. Pye, were you going to add something about that?
No.
Okay.
I was worried that I didn't see it, but it's in that, it's not labeled separated out, is it? Or-
It says incentives for dual modality teaching.
Okay. Because we estimated that could be as much as $4 million, and I think you said that would fit within that realm.
Yes. So
Are we allowed to make any change, once it's in there, can we ever amend it?
Yes, sir, we certainly can. We certainly
They just have to approve the item. If they approve the item and it goes to $5 million, we can still do it.
Correct.
We take it from something else.
Absolutely. So what we did was to increase this line item by that $4 million that Mr. Pye just said. I don't know if you remember on the second slide, we did have a total unbudgeted amount of $2,043,000. So we used that money to go towards the dual modality, and then also we decreased the amount of the HVAC for our old schools. We still wanted to repair some of those the four oldest schools that the facility study identified as critical areas that we needed to replace in our schools that are over 60 years old. So maybe instead of completely replacing some of those, we could repair those in a major way. So we utilized some of the money in that category to make up for the learning loss. We felt that was very important. So this is the plan as it stands right now that we were going to submit to the State Department. As Mr. Pye said, if we see an area where we need more, if we need less, we can make an amendment later.
Does anybody have any questions for Tina?
Can Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
The, on the learning loss, going back to that, I noticed the last two, looking at the 4K programs, I think even one younger. Can you guys talk about that a little bit? Are we going to be able to institute a full day 4K program with this?
Yes, so we received some funding from the state this year that allowed us to target 11 of our schools, is that right? With CERDEP money, and then this difference would cover all of our elementary schools.
Nine, it was nine.
Okay, 9. So then the other 6, we wanted to utilize this ESSER 3 funding so that every elementary school could have a full day 4K, which Ms. Estep has said that all of them have 2 classes, except for Somerville Elementary has 1 class. So they all have 2 4K all-day classes.
That's fantastic. Does that help with transportation as well? I'm assuming that that cuts out a lot of midday transportation issues.
They'll all be transported.
But as full
Right,
day, so they don't have the middle of
So
the
it's-
day.
they don't have the middle of the day. That actually saves us because we're not doing that
That's-
middle of the day route. It's going to be so much better for these children. It's going to really help their parents with childcare, and it's just a win-win for our kids.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Anyone else? Ms. Wimberly?
I know we talked about this a little at the last time, the smaller class sizes, and we didn't really know yet because we didn't have the numbers, but now we're at the 6th day, so we have those numbers. Do we have a projected class size, an average teacher ratio type thing yet? Do we know?
Still
Are they
not
deep
quite
smaller?
there. I think we're going to, the numbers, correct me, Ms. Radcliffe, on my numbers of what we ended up with the high school. Didn't we say 27 to 1, 26 to 1? What was, that we allocated for? We allocated about 27, 28 to 1. Well, it's going to be that easy. They're coming in over. And same thing with middle school. Elementary classes have always been like kindergarten not to exceed 26. We put in 24, and I think we're under that number. Matter of fact, as of today, we're under all the numbers that we put the ratios, so we're within the class size reduction. We're only reducing 1, in some cases 2, and we're there. We might be 2 in all grade levels. We're in good shape for elementary, and I think the way they're coming in so slowly, I think, and our people call every parent religiously to make sure they're in town. Please come, bring your kids to school. So I think that number's there. We're high school kids. We had our largest number on the day Charleston County went back Wednesday to school. Our children decided they're going to school with Charleston children. So they came here. It's like they get 2 extra days. We're going to just take 2 extra days. That's sometimes the high school mentality, but that was a big day for us. So those could be up. I'm worried about those. But with the elementary being what it is, I think we're fine with the teachers. All positions in elementary are filled. And like I said, we're able to move them around so we can cover anything that's not where it needs to be. I feel real good about elementary. I'll give you a final, in 2 weeks we'll have everything pretty well, it'll be finalized.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else, questions or comments?
All right, thank you all very much for all your input for the $40 million ESSER plan, and we'll submit this tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the Facilities and Construction Report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The paving is complete over at Somerville Elementary behind there with the bus loop and the parking. We got everything paved, most of it striped, and it's been a really challenging time because this has been some unprecedented weather we've been having over the past several months, and we've still got a few more weeks of summer left, so hopefully we can get through it without floating away. There is one issue with the bus loop, and that's the ADA ramps. They are on back order. They're having some trouble at the manufacturer is having some trouble delivering those because of the lack of help. He doesn't have anybody to do it. The new middle school, we were out there Thursday. The foundation work is nearing completion. They're actually building walls around the gym now. We're going vertical And out there, it's a very wet place. And they've been measuring the rain out there, and they've measured 21 inches from June to August, and that's only the 5 days a week. They don't measure the weekend, so I'm glad they don't measure that, because that'd be a lot more. We're still on track right now for July 22 opening. If the rain keeps doing the way it's going, we may end up having to push a little bit. But they're working on weekends the best they can, and we're just trying to trudge along to make up time. And those guys they're very cognizant of the overall scope of the project, and they're trying to get done what they can get done. The district office renovation, well, we had an OSF final inspection last Monday. That went very well. We had a few issues to tighten up. The third party came back Friday, and we got a verbal occupancy from OSF. It's conditional that we don't use the boardroom quite yet because we don't have the seats in there. We don't have the ADA ramp there either. But when those issues get ironed out, we can use the entire building. But we started the big move today, so hopefully by this time next week, everybody will be settled in, and with the exception of a few folks, and we'll be operating out of the new district office, 815 South Main. Any questions for me?
Any questions or comments from Mr. Souls?
Good. Yes, sir.
I received a couple of emails over the period of time from some of our neighbors by the new school site.
Yes, sir.
And, I've even met with them, and you all have several times. I got something this weekend that they're again, they were making all this noise prior to 7 a.m. There's a noise ordinance or an ordinance that said they cannot be doing construction work before 7 a.m. And we calmed that down. It was going good, but evidently they're bringing the trucks. They're sitting in there and talking on radios and shining their bright lights, waiting for 7 to get there. They get there at 6:30, quarter to 7. So they're making the same noise they'd be making if they run the machinery. And some of the neighbors have been most upset. But I do want to say I appreciate I sent that to you, and you forwarded it on to the company. And I saw the apology note today come through, and that young man is pretty sharp. I think he says he's going to straighten it out. It's going to end, and he just he might have to be out there in the mornings at 6:30 to monitor it.
Yes,
That's the issue. It's that, because there are a lot of these are new subs, and they're coming and going, and they don't know the rule, maybe, They might have I've been there the day that he did it, and it only takes one, and then everybody else says his lights are on, I put mine on. And supposedly the lights are shining into the bedroom windows of people
Yes, sir. And I think the
still
main
sleeping.
issue is on the weekends.
On the issue, right.
But I talked to Adam, Mr. Pratt, today, and he said that if he has to go there and stand guard at the gate until 7 before he opens it up and lets folks in, that he will do that.
But never in my lifetime would I be telling you, don't let these people start work before 7 o'clock. And they work on the weekend, y'all. I've built 11 schools, and did additions, altogether 28 building projects since I've been superintendent. 28. This is the first I've ever heard of where anybody complained that we had people working on the weekend. I can't find them on Friday, period, let alone Saturday and Sunday. So that is wonderful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're very, very much schedule driven, and I'm very appreciative of that. But I'm also appreciative of having headlights flashing in my bedroom at 6:30 on Saturday morning, because I enjoy my Saturday mornings.
It'll be up in the next 4, 5, or 6 months, far enough along that we
Yes, sir.
should not be having that kind of a problem.
Yes, sir.
And
They're already improving that roadway where they can get to the back of the site. And I think when they do that, I think the parking that's along or parallel to Marside Drive, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a non-player. They're going to be able to park in the very back of the site and be able to work
Well, good.
and get started at 7, but they should be on site.
we want to be good neighbors. And
Yes,
I
sir.
want them to
Yes,
be
sir,
good neighbors
absolutely.
back because of vandalism, break-ins, and other things that schools sometimes are the target of with all those woods behind us. I'd like to know that I've got neighbors that's helping us watch out for things.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So help them out.
Just a quick question. If we are planning on having everything fully moved next week, does that mean that our next board meeting will be held in the new office, or will it be here for one more time and then go. Just
I'm-
wanting to
I'm-
make
I'm
sure
quite
people here
confident-
know where the next board meeting is
I'm
going
quite
to
confident
be.
we'll have at least one more here. We're waiting on the seats for New Idea to come in for the boardroom.
Mm-hmm.
And once those seats are installed, once the ramp is in place, we have to get the third party to come out and verify all the measurements and all that. I don't think OSF is going to want to come back out, but they allow us to use the third party for verification on that. And that should go pretty quickly because we've planned and measured twice, cut once, so we only have to have our third party out one more time. We did go through with preliminary inspection of all the space, and everything that we found, every little issue that we found everywhere has been taken care of. So it's just a matter of, we got the carpet down in the boardroom last week. It was pretty much a one-day job. Those guys came in and they got it down. Just now the seats and the ramp, and the ramp will probably take about 2 hours to install, if we can ever get it
The seats,
delivered.
1.5 days for the seats.
Yes.
Well, the main thing is I just want to make sure that we are able to tell everybody at a board meeting so that
We will.
it's, we're streaming it and everybody knows where the next board meeting is going to be so that we give people notice of the change, so.
Yes, ma'am, we'd hate for y'all to come in here for a board meeting and the dais be gone. That may not be a good thing.
Yeah.
This will be what we're taking this to the
Yeah.
new site.
And that thing's
Well,
been measured
that's when we'll
7
know
times.
that we're supposed to be over there. We may be a little late, but we'll know we're supposed to be over there.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
Thank you.
Sauls.
Ms. Hughes,
Yes, Ms.
Ms.
Crosby?
Hughes, do we still have to walk through schedule for this Friday?
Yes.
Yes, the walkthrough is scheduled for this Friday. I think you will be getting a text message or email or something of the times for this Friday. I'm not sure, is it going to be at 3 o'clock? Looks like it's maybe at 3. I was thinking there may have been 2 times to choose
It
from.
was 2. We had some people with conflicts. I thought about doing a morning one and an afternoon one for the
Yeah.
people who have those schedules they'd like to do.
So we may have, we'll still be sending out something, a calendar invite for you, and then you just choose between the 2 times as to which time you'd like to attend, and then send that back, and then we'll see you there.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next on the agenda is the personnel report. Board members, in your packets, you should have received the recommendations and the resignations for the recommendations for the 21-22 year and the resignations for the 20-21 year and the 21-22 year. Does anybody have a problem with doing those in open session? Okay, I need a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7-0. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is our board committee reports, and we have our policy committee. Mr. Guthrie, are you going to handle that for us?
Yes,
Okay.
so our policy chair, Barbie Crosby, asked me to take over tonight. And the policy committee met this past week to go over first reading for rules and new policies. So for your consideration for first reading, we have policy IHFAA, Diploma of Distinction, policy IKA and accompanying IKAR, Grading Assessment Systems and Administrative Rule, Rule IKCAR, Academic Letters and Medals Administrative Rule, and policy JLCDC, Food Allergies and Special Dietary Needs.
Okay. Coming from a committee, we need no second, so is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7-0. Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Okay, next on the agenda is public comments, and if I may, I would like to once again read our procedures. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Public comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action or respond to public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must submit the comment card 5 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. No specific names are to be used in comments. Comments regarding an employee or student will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. Okay, and first up is David Norris.
Good evening. I was kind of hoping I could be a little bit later on the list, but this is where I'm at. I'm kind of tired. I wish I could be home right now with my wife and kids, enjoying some dinner. I'm hungry. Been working all day. And I just want to make a comment real quick that it's real simple. The virus doesn't care. It doesn't care about our laws, your idea of freedoms, your attorneys, or your sanctimony. The faith alone protected us. The churches would be overrun with converts. Instead, our hospitals are overrun with anti-vaxxers and people who refuse to wear masks. You're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. You mentioned roles that need to be filled. We just lost 4 good people to fill those roles. 4. And school just started. Where's your morals there? Where's your ethics there? You say it's my right to let my child get sick. You say it's my right that they might not get proper treatment because the hospitals are so full. It is my right to cause my child to have unknown, lifelong consequences from COVID. It is my right for my child to infect other innocent people and cause them illness and death. No matter what your reason against masks, this is what you're saying. The solution is simple. God gave us these wonderful brains, and I think it's a shame not to use them. Masks need to be required in school. We owe it to our children to protect them from this threat. I find it fascinating that at this point, people are more concerned about where I'm looking than the safety of their children. We owe it to them to give them every tool we have so they can handle the world they will inherit from us. It's a good education, it's mask, and when it becomes available to them, it's the vaccines. We give them the weapons to fight this. The education and the antibodies. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Next is Danielle Hinchcliffe.
I'm here tonight to address you, the school board. Where's your moral obligation for the safety of the staff, the students, and your constituency? 12 and under cannot get vaccinated. You guys have the luxury to sit here tonight and sit next to masked people. Our children don't have that Science supports mitigation. Science supports masks and separation. Now that our case counts in schools and kids in the hospital with COVID-19 are higher than last year, where are the plexiglass separators that were there over the summer? They're gone. Okay? What's the plan when the staff is overrun with positive cases? Criteria must be masked and social distance. Some of the quotes that you guys said tonight. Let's make lemonade with lemons. Right after a moment of silence for your peers, for your workers being dead. I've had to hear it for a year and a half, being called a sheep, to stay home, to hide. But these children don't have a choice. They have a right for an education. You think us parents aren't out there, that you're scared of litigation and laws? But let me tell you, we're amassing. The petition is filling. The groups are filling. You should be scared of our lawyers, because our children deserve to be at school. They deserve not to be scared of dying and looking to their left and to their right, and there's not a mask. Children are wearing a mask to protect the peers that aren't wearing them. I'm a little impassioned, because until you see your child on a ventilator like I have, and beg God with everything you have, don't take my only son. I am not you, God. I cannot give my only son. You don't get to tell me that I'm a sheep. My son's life matters. Every life matters. And for everybody that is, I thought we were in a government building, Dorchester County. I was mistaken, because they said that you don't have to wear a mask in here, even though the government said, as of today, you did. So I just wanted to point that out to the viewers at home, that you don't have to wear a mask, apparently, in Dorchester County, because this is a school district building. That doesn't apply here. I just wanted to point that out, since all of you have a mask on. But it's not required, even though Dorchester County announced that it was required. I don't do public speaking, but I have sat at home and watched my children's mental health go downhill. I'm here for the kids.
Thank you, Ms. Hinchcliffe. Next up, Jason Brockert.
Good evening, Madam Chair, DD2 Board, Mr. Pye. You're going to be hearing some more impassioned things like that. That's just what's coming. So I'd rather be standing here and discussing curriculum, but curriculum doesn't actually matter when you can't be in school. You know, I've been up here and I've been speaking about trying to hear every side. Today, I just want you to consider where we are right now. This is politically driven and polarized. Our schools should not be driven by politics. Our schools should embody knowledge and compassion. Lately, that's not been the trend. Our teachers and staff have been overworked and underappreciated, and many that haven't already left are at the breaking point. So COVID cases in schools the first week of school are multiples higher than the highest day ever in the last year. So the first day of school went from the Friday baseline, 57 new cases in DD2. Tuesday was 48, Wednesday was 40. Thursday was 30, and Friday was 37. And if you take a guess at what the highest we had in any one day last year, it was 20. And that was a single day offset, peak. This has been day after day of higher than we've ever seen. That needs to be considered. We get lost in the details when we're talking about masks. This mask or that mask, or whether or not I adjust my mask, or whether or not the person next to me is wearing a mask. They all work to a degree. Let's not hash out the details. They all work better when we all do it. Now, the governor replied to the Secretary of Education, and I couldn't agree more. I'll paraphrase. Bureaucrats shouldn't be telling parents what to do. The schools should be picking what's right and to pick up the fight when it's not right. The district board is sworn to solemnly represent the interest of the entire district when making decisions and to rely on available facts and on our judgment rather than on individuals and special needs. That is exactly what it says to swear to be on the board. And I really don't want to be here talking about this again. I mean, it's just where we are. I've already had several conversations with administration about why I've chosen to go the route that I've chosen. A lot of that has to do with logistics. I get it. It's crazy. Logistics are not working out. Right now, I know it's been mentioned, there's a petition that's gone out. It has only been out for a few hours, and it's over 600 signatures. That's building, so that's coming. You're going to hear more of that. I know that if we keep going like we're going, we're heading for another full shutdown. Now, we don't have plans for virtual academy. We don't have plans for what happens when our children can't be there because they're quarantined, because they have to be next to somebody that was sick and wasn't wearing a mask, and all these details. But we don't have stopgaps in place. Somebody gets out for 14 days or out for 14 days, we'll figure it out. We have worksheets. So you can't say you didn't see this coming. We've seen this. It's the trends. Now you just have to decide how to temper it.
Thank you, Mr. Brockert. Next is Wilma Sky Brown.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I'm a grandmother of 2 students at Joseph Pye Elementary and a retired educator from a medical school. When I saw that Live 5 News today said that DD2, after 1 week of school, has 31 staff members positive, 223 students positive, and 471 students in quarantine. How are you going to manage the continuum of learning for these students? How are you? You are supporting politics versus listening to DHEC and the scientists. I support vaccines, and I support mask mandates for our students. If you are an anti-masker, does this mean that you are pro-COVID? If you eat hot dogs, chicken McNuggets, processed meats, and if you say you won't support vaccines because you don't know what's in them, what does this say about you? How can you justify that? If you believe mandates for mask encroaches on your constitutional freedoms, what do you say about the government, the law, requiring driver's licenses to drive, seat belts in cars for safety, paying income taxes on April 15th? Those are the laws. So why are not masks being mandated to protect public health? If children need immunizations for measles, mumps, rubella, polio, diphtheria to enter school, why don't they need a mask mandate and vaccines to enter school? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nicole McCullers.
Eventually, I'm going to get past my fear of public speaking. All right, COVID is real, and it is serious. So thank you first for providing virtual learning for both students and teachers who do not feel safe going back to school. But for the rest of us, it is time to return back to school as normal. Serious viruses are not a new thing to us.
The school districts do not know better than parents about what is best for our children. We need to address the current facts first. 97.8% of people that got COVID in Dorchester County were never hospitalized. Children have a 99.98% survival rate against COVID. Last year, 852 people in South Carolina died by suicide. Please consider what hiding face expressions and socially distancing for another year would do to those at risk for suicide. People are dying at a higher rate of heart disease in Dorchester County than COVID, yet I don't see a mandate on good nutrition. It's left to common sense. More people are being hospitalized from car accidents in Dorchester County than COVID, yet I don't see a mandate to walk everywhere. Before the pandemic, if I wrapped something around my kid's face for 7 hours a day, you would report me for child abuse. The masks you issued, if worn correctly, are 50% effective. But we all know that our kids don't wear them correctly, so they're pointless. Now that we know the facts, I have two solutions that will be in compliance with both the state proviso and parental rights and be much more effective at slowing the spread of the virus. The first thing we should do is use air purification technologies that dilute and destroy all viruses, mold, and bacteria. Hospitals recommend the brand iWave. That is 99.4% effective against COVID. The next thing we can do, as supported by the CDC, is germicidal UVC. It kills 95% of viruses, including COVID, and can be installed in the light fixtures. So iWave air filtration will deactivate 99.4% of the viruses from the air we're breathing, and the ultraviolet light will deactivate 95% of the virus on all these surfaces. This will cost about $4 million total for DD2, but isn't it worth it? I'm sure the $40.5 million DD2 got in COVID relief money will cover it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, next is Karima Hines. Good evening.
That we lost during this tragic time. I'll just continue to pray. But with that being said, this has been very challenging, not only as a parent, but as a staff, may I add, bus driver. We are very misfortunate to be short as we are, but we make it happen. And it's not only because of the adults, the parents, it's for the children. We getting off of this concept about what parent want what parent need what, for what reasons, and their reasons is not adding up to the safety of our children. I granted, McMaster put out that he would take away funds, he would remove things from the schools or the districts. So I respect that y'all have to do what y'all have to do. But at the same time, we're losing lives, the children, the parents, a mother, a staff gave birth to a child that she could not even hold. She's gone. She's gone. That child will never be able to see his or her mother. As a parent, I'm asking y'all, Mr. Pye, Ms. Crosby, for y'all to have experienced what y'all have experienced, the uncertainty with this virus, with this COVID, with this disease, whatever it is not going to cease until someone mandates and puts something for these children in effect to prevent and to be precautious with these children's lives. Not only their lives, What about our lives? The teachers, the bus drivers, the monitors. We're afraid. I come to work diligently every day. You know why? Because that one child that greets me every day, that want to give me a hug, Miss K, I love you. It means so much to me. That's what makes me come to work. Let alone my supervisors that appreciate us that's here. But it's hard. It's very hard. Like that parent said, seeing her child on a ventilator. I don't think nobody want to see their child on a ventilator. I don't think a parent want to bury their own child. But it's happening. We're in the now times. And if everybody's just holding on and wanting to know about the money, guess what? The money's going to be there when you're here and when you're gone. That money is going to be here. You can't take it with you. When you pass away, guess what? You can't take nothing with you. What's here on earth is going to just stay right here on earth. Okay? Now, not to get off subject, but I'm coming to y'all, please, take into consideration. Yeah, we have some parents that's against it. Oh, well. Okay, but until it hit them or it hit their child, then they'll know how it feels. My daughter, 15 years old, she had COVID. I was symptomatic with it. You know how it is for a parent to lay in one room and their child's sick in another room and you can't attend to them? It's not right. So please, Mr. Pye, I know it's not much you can do, but if you care for these children as much as you say you do, and I believe you truly do, please put something in some perspective. The plexiglass is removed. The plastic for the safety for the buses is removed. That's not fair.
Thank you, Ms.
Please
Hines.
take it into consideration.
Thank you. Next is Jen Wild.
I'm going to remove this so I could speak quickly and clearly. Good evening, everybody. I think I know almost everybody here. Hello, my name is Jen Wilde, and I'm a teacher and mother in DD2 with a 3-minute time limit. The only personal context I'd like to set for my words tonight is that my entire family works for DD2. Both sisters and my brother-in-law are teachers in our district, and all of our kids go here. We have always respected and been cheerleaders for the board. For Mr. Pye, he has personally been my date at many functions when I was District Teacher of the Year. And for the administrators we've worked for. I share that only because our crew, I want you to know and this be a reminder that even though I'm asking for a change tonight of one of your policies, your mask policy, it doesn't mean we're on different sides, and I don't even think we're on different sides. I'm turning around not to look at you, I'm turning around to mention that. I'm disappointed that you announced your mask policy before you even heard from any of the DD2 stakeholders. That's not how I run family meetings in my home. That's not how I run family meetings in my classroom. Before you even knew what we had to say, you told us what was going to happen. I'm disappointed in that, but I'm still going to share my words. I know we might have different opinions politically or about this pandemic, but simply said, we all want our students to get the best education possible. But for the first time, in order for that to happen, we actually need to find ways for our students and staff to even be in school. That's not something we've ever had to tackle. They've always been there. We just had to find the best way to get to them. Now we need to find ways to keep them there. We need to keep both groups healthy, and at this very grave point, we need to keep them alive. The students and staff at our schools need a mask mandate. We don't want one. I hate this. I hate everyone in my laundry room. Nobody wants them. But we need one. And to support this mask mandate request, I ask you to listen carefully to the unarguable data that happens in Beach Hill Elementary, just one of our 15 elementary schools, and one of my favorite places to be. My twin daughters and I spend 7 hours a day there, and at Beach Hill we have about 900 students and about 100 staff members. So let's make it easy. I'm the math coach there. That's about 1,000 people. Out of those 1,000 people, 900 are definitely not vaccinated. They can't be. They're under 12 years old. So right there, that's 90% of our population sharing facilities, sharing air that are unvaccinated. Now we have 100 staff members. Let's be hopeful and think that that average is higher than the county average of half. So let's say 7 out of 10 staff are vaccinated. That leaves us with 93% of the people in that building, walking those halls, eating in that cafeteria, using those bathrooms, riding those buses, sitting shoulder to shoulder in the car rider line. These are all what it's really like. I don't know what it's like where you visited, but that's what it's like. I'm actually not going to stop. So only 7% of the people in that building are even possibly vaccinated. Do any of you work under those conditions? I think not. I went to the Dorchester, yes ma'am, you do, and I appreciate you very much. I went to the Dorchester County Water Authority, and I couldn't go in the building without a mask, and she was covered in plexiglass, and she deserves that. But why don't we? So 7 hours a day, 5 days a week.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop, Ms. Wiley.
93% of the people in that building are unvaccinated, and we share everything about that building. So maybe you don't think sharing the air and the facilities of the place is not a big deal because there's safety measures in place, and
Ms.
I
Wiley.
very much love Ms. Rayner,
Ms.
but the
Wiley,
promise she
you're gonna
made.
have to stop, please, because we have to move on. Okay?
I'm going to say
Thank
one
you.
more thing respectfully. The promises we made as safety measures, not one. We quoted that all available are in place. We don't check temperature. We don't have plexiglass. We can't possibly socially distance, and a great minority of people actually wear masks. And that's in a building where 93% of the people are unvaccinated. So we can't promise these families that all safety measures are in place. Actually, no safety measures are in place.
Thank you, Ms. Wilde.
Please be braver than you've been. A governor's mandate does not rule everything.
Next up is Jordan Hall.
Thank you all for having me tonight. I'm here to talk about TJ LaBracchio. He was born into a military family. His mother is a lieutenant colonel and his father is a United States Air Force Master Sergeant. His stepfather was a 2-star U.S. Air Force general and his grandfather a Marine, and his stepfather served as an Air Force medical technician. TJ enlisted immediately after graduating from high school at Fairfield, Connecticut, and volunteered the USAF Security Forces just like his father. He was later qualified to serve with the Reapers, a special combat unit that went outside the wire to track and engage an enemy. He knew it was dangerous, but felt it was his job to serve and further protect his fellow Americans. During a night foot patrol in September of 2013, TJ interrupted an enemy IED team and prevented an ambush that would have devastated his team. During the ensuing firefight, TJ was killed in action by small arms fire, and America lost an airman. Brother, a son, and a friend. It was the first killed-in-action casualty suffered by an airman from Stewart since the Vietnam War. TJ was our friend. And every September 5th, we have to remember that. But I also know that TJ fought for this country, and he most importantly fought for our freedom, and he paid the ultimate sacrifice. With freedom comes choice, currently choice with this, for families to make the decision to wear or not wear a mask, to be vaccinated or not be vaccinated. We are showing our children the importance of choice and teaching them who fought and died for our freedom and our choice. Choice is what makes America great and makes this district great, and hope you continue to give our children and families just that, choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Next up is Barbie Ross.
Good evening. I'm here as a community member, a teacher, and I'm representing many members of the Somerville Education Association. Normal with caution isn't working for us. We look at the numbers of students and staff sick or quarantined. We're not currently using any safety measures to prevent the spread of COVID, and to suggest that we are in an email is just not true. We're not able to clean and sanitize buses between routes, and we're packing kids in 2 to 3 to a seat. At the high school level, we have a super spreader event every day called ILT, where 2,400 kids mill the halls. How do you contact trace that? At the elementary level, students are sitting shoulder to shoulder in the cafeteria. Rooms are not being sanitized in the same way they were in the past. I read somewhere we have air purifiers. I don't have one. Why are we not following any of the back-to-school playbook recommendations? What we're experiencing now is far more contagious and is impacting children. It seems we're pretending that everything is fine. I understand that there's a small sect of our community that are not concerned with staff safety. However, we should all be concerned about the safety of our children, all of our children. We are at the point where a death column is going to be needed for our dashboard. I would hope that no one finds that acceptable. I'm asking that you put in place some of the same strategies we used last year to mitigate the risk for students and staff. Social distancing, closed lunch and ILT, and increased time to sanitize buses. I also am a mask fan, I'm not going to lie. I would also point out, with the number of cases we have at some of our schools, it must be near to impossible for Ms. Santa Maria to do all the contact tracing necessary for all these cases. I'm not sure how she does it for one school. I'm hoping that she is getting adequate help so that she can keep up with that impossible task. Thank you for hearing from me.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Next, Philip Hall.
Thank you all. When we started out this meeting, Ms. Hughes, you had mentioned that it's confusing for y'all. That there's information coming in one way or the other. But last meeting, there was, I think Mr. Pine, maybe one other member was wearing a mask. Now y'all are wearing masks. So y'all, I think, are you know, if you're trying to set an example, when you said it yourself, you don't know the information. So what are you putting out to our children? There was a video I sent you and I sent a few others on the board from a senior industrial hygienist that works in occupational environmental toxicology. She teaches the experts on how to effectively use a mask. There was no doubt, I hope you watched the video, the masks don't work they are not working that are given to children. They don't work. And they have a far more negative effect than a positive effect on our children. I am very thankful that Governor McMaster came out and decided the people in this and decided the children, because it gave you guys some cover. Because I know last year for a fact that the board was berated by teachers, by parents, teachers bullying other teachers into wanting mask mandates and wanting not to go back to school. So provided cover. What I'm concerned with is that last year we were the only ones not listened to, and I feel like it's going that way. By you all coming in with masks on today and getting emails, I'm afraid that if he were to bend on that, you all would go back to that policy that didn't work last year. Kids were miserable. Kids were coming home with bloody noses. As I've said before, you hear the vitriol in here, who's it from? It's for the ones that want mandates. It's not from us. We want choice. If you as a parent decide you want to put a mask on your child and you want your kid to get vaccinated, by all means do it. But we have that choice. And our children are not going to wear masks and they're not going to get vaccinated. That's our choice. If you're wearing a mask and you're vaccinated, what does it matter to you if our children wear a mask or are vaccinated? And if you're vaccinated and you're socially distancing, why are you wearing a mask? It's sad when anybody passes. But to prove how political this is, we'll never know how many people died from COVID compared to how many people died with COVID. We'll never know those numbers because it doesn't fit the narrative. You're right, Ms. Wimberly, when you said the kids are thrilled to be back in school because they're thrilled to see other kids with smiles on. There's hypocrisy all over our country. Whether it's Barack Obama having a party at Martha's Vineyard with 100 people or 200 people, or Nancy Pelosi having a party. The hypocrisy is ridiculous that goes on with people. They don't wear the mask properly, they don't work, and they don't belong on our children, and you know that. You know that at heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Erica Malachonsky. Did I mess that one up so bad? Chowski. I was close.
Good evening, Board. My name is Erica Malachowski. I want to start off by expressing my deepest condolences for your tremendous loss within the last 2 days. I'm a nurse and I'm a homeschool mom. This is actually my first time getting public comment here at the school board. I was a Beach Hill mom who loved her kids' school and all of her teachers and principal. I unenrolled my children from DD2 school last year. It was a decision that didn't come without shedding some tears for my kids and myself. Last year, the thought of my kids eating lunch in their classrooms and the inconsistency and uncertainty of having them home one week and then having them in school the next, wearing masks all day and not being able to give their peers a hug was an environment I knew that my kids were not going to thrive in. We're enjoying the freedom of homeschooling. We're enjoying the autonomy of homeschooling has to offer. I thought about what I could say in my short allotted time tonight, because even though mask mandates in public schools do not directly affect me or my children daily, I'll never stop supporting parents' rights to choose what's best for their children. After hearing your position in the beginning of your meeting tonight, I'm not going to go into this rather lengthy speech rattling off data and statistics. I'm not here to beat you guys over the heads. That's not my character and that's not my nature. I'm going to honor your grief tonight. So I'm going to make this short, and people that know me know that I don't do anything short. I'm rather long-winded. One, the data is unchanged in regards to children mortality rates in COVID. There's still no evidence, too, that suggests children are infecting teachers at school. And the media is still using messy statistics and cherry-picking data while instilling fear and panic. I'm asking, and I'm actually so thankful that you are going to continue to uphold the current law, which gives parents the right to choose to mask their children. Mask choice does not take your choice away. I urge everyone to continue doing what is best for all of your families. And just like any illness, let's all continue to be good parents and continue to keep our kids that are sick at home. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Kelly Bates.
Still hate this every time. All right. Hey, y'all. I stand here frustrated, exhausted, and heartbroken, as I know many of us in this room are feeling. Whether you're fighting for medical freedom or advocating for mandates, none of this is easy. I understand that the pressure you're facing from different views, full of emotion. For that, I'm sorry. I think one thing that we've all forgotten is that COVID hasn't spared any of us. Every last one of us are trying to make tough decisions to protect those we love. It's exhausting as a parent to try to figure out what that is, to look at the data, to weigh the risks, and to make a difficult decision based on that information. I know I chose what I have because I've read efficacy studies for and against. I've considered the psychological impact of covering my child's face every day. I've thought about the stage they are in their social and emotional development. I've taken into account their health and underlying conditions. I've looked at COVID statistics for children. I've thought about the people my children are around. I've compared districts with mandates versus those without. I've thought about all of that and more. Many of us advocating for parental choice have. It's not political. It's not about not caring. What's worse than having to decide all of this is constantly having to worry when and if the school board or government will strip you of your ability to protect your child as you see fit.
I don't doubt that we are all passionate about our kids and care deeply about their well-being. I also know, like me, every parent I have spoke to, whether for or against, hasn't decided without having a lot of thought and consideration. With that being said, we have a very serious problem. It seems as though one side of the argument expects everyone to believe, think, and choose the same as them. They believe their conclusion is right, regardless of your individual child, their needs, or what you feel. You have to do what they want. They believe institutions should have more say over children than parents themselves. I'm not okay with that. We are in unprecedented times, and for anyone to come up here and say they know 100% with certainty their choice is the right choice is lying. I could talk for hours on the research I have put in, and as most of us probably could. I could tell you that per the CDC, you are twice as likely to get struck by lightning than you are to have your own child die of COVID. But I only have 3 minutes, and that's not my point. While I absolutely support everyone's personal decision and right to choose to wear masks or make medical choices for their own children, it is not the right of the government or schools to force these decisions on parents. It's crucial in a free society we have medical autonomy over our children. We all have different health situations, belief systems, religious beliefs, medical needs, and I would never advocate to take away a parent's right to protect their child in a way they see fit. I know we're all struggling. We're all trying to find a way through this. I get it. But the proviso in place does not take away the right of any parent who chooses to mask their child. It simply gives parents who feel differently the ability to do what's in the best interest of their child. Allowing the government to mandate these things, whether you agree with them or not, is a slippery slope. While you may agree or feel there is a need for masks now, since everybody else went 2 minutes over, I'm just going to finish this. While you might agree that there's a need for masks now, what happens when you don't agree with the decision that is being forced on your child? Each child is different with different needs and issues. As parents and educators, we should know and understand this. Parents, and parents alone, should have the authority and final say when it comes to the medical devices, prophylactics, and medicines their children utilize, regardless of the provision, if the provision stands. Sorry, that is so distracting. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Kelly. Tracy Hirsch.
Hi, thanks for letting me talk. I spoke to a couple of you on the phone this week. I'm actually a scientist, and I have been for over 25 years. I spent time growing viruses, flu, RSV, HPV, and I am not for mandating masks. My reasons are having to do with they're not very effective and they're not healthy for children to be wearing. Now, I've seen people up here, some of these people that have gotten really impassioned and really upset, they're not properly wearing their masks. I see people with their noses hanging down. Please, be respectful. With their noses hanging out. That's just not proper way of wearing the mask. Anyway, going back and forth on that and arguing with these people in the back is not going to do us any good. We all. Okay. We all are here for the same reason. We all care about our schools, our kids, our students, our teachers, everybody. We care about the community. We want to make this situation better. So what do? Last year we had the mask mandates in all the stores. We had, online school, which of course, hybrid school, good and bad for some people. But the thing of it is we're here yet again. Here we are. COVID is here with us to stay, and we're going to have to learn to deal with it. Wearing masks for kids is not going to be a good option. I have the studies that I have, 44 studies and 65 publications. I have a couple review articles for them. I kind of made you a little handout so that you could just, the summary tables, rather than going through all of it. Follow the science. I see science as, I don't know what's happening to the science anymore. What has been logical is all of a sudden not logical. You mentioned earlier, what's good one day is not good the other day. We hear things from the CDC, we hear things from DHIC. I mean, I looked up who funds the CDC, who I see on here, and you all can do this, by the way. I see Pfizer, I see Johnson & Johnson, I see pretty much every biotech lab every, anybody that you can imagine on here funding the CDC. Why is that? Why? I mean, it's great for my stock options from my previous employer, I'm not gonna lie, but that's not what I want. I'd like to see more mitigation, and maybe some creativity. I'm thinking along what they were talking about before, some ventilation. So in the labs, when I worked with virus, I actually didn't wear a mask. We had negative flow so that anything in the room would escape the room. Ventilation, fresh air, actually maybe even teaching kids some things positive about nutrition, not necessarily, you can't ever have a hamburger at McDonald's, but saying, hey, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, these are things that help us fight off viruses. They're very important for us. And most people are actually, they don't realize it, but they are vitamin D deficient. I won't go on anymore, but you all are free to look up the CDC Foundation for yourself and see who's funding it. Because most of those companies you're going to recognize as who's making a lot of money off of this pandemic. And that to me is sad. And what we really should be fighting for is not masking our children, but asking for better treatments.
Thank you.
Email address is on the way.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch.
And I apologize for going over.
Okay, I'm not going to try to butcher this one, so I'm just going to call Summer.
Hi. I have spoken to you guys before about different things, and I actually submitted some stuff via email. I have covered papers responding with my personal educated responses to like all the various things, and it's not worth it. It'll take up my whole 3 minutes. But I am a pediatric critical care nurse. I have worked for 12 years, and I can say that one thing I know everybody can agree on is we don't want to see children in the condition I do on a daily basis. My last 8 shifts, I've taken care of a COVID kid on full life support. It's happening. Now, they're not from our county. They're from every county, because at MUSC, we get children from every county. So my fear is that if we don't do something to help this, if there is, God forbid, a child in our county that needs a hospital bed, they might not have one. And the things that come out of not controlling that, we can have a full hospital and people aren't going to actually be able to get seen. And we're seeing that happen in Florida now and in Louisiana and Texas. And from that standpoint, it scares me to think that we have a simple tool. And hey, I agree with you guys. If you think it doesn't work, if that's what you believe deep down, that's fine. I'm telling you, I've worked with these patients for over a year, and the mask has protected me before I got the vaccine, which I then did. But when you're saying you want the choice as a parent, I feel like I deserve the choice as a parent to send my child to a school where there's at least something. So she's wearing a mask, she does. She's 6, she's one of 5 other kids in her class that wear a mask. She told me, she counted. The first day of school, she comes home and I said, how was everything? And she goes, oh, we all had lunch in the cafeteria. I got to see all my friends. All the kids had lunch in the cafeteria? So me as a parent who's choosing to mask, because we're not taking any other steps, that choice is taken away from me. So just like you guys want the choice to not mask, I also want the choice to know that my child has some distance, because public school is needed. They need to be there. So I thought of a happy medium would be, why don't we see which parents want to mask and do a classroom in an elementary school where they can't get the vaccines? If 2 teachers want to have all masked kids and all unmasked kids, and let them, just some type of compromise so parents aren't at each other's throats. I'm trying to think of something. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
I'm not saying I feel
Wow. Okay, I'm just trying to make it safer for my child to attend school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Irene Cronin.
Okay, first and foremost, I want to give my heartfelt condolences to not only the families that lost members this last week, but that have lost for the last year and a half, for any reason, whether it was COVID or another reason. A loss of a loved one is devastating, and there's no words that can bring comfort for that. But I think the problem that we've been having is that our response to COVID has been 90% emotion, fear, and politics, and 10% science. So I want to go over some data that can be verified by anybody, from the CDC, from the American Academy of Pediatrics, and just to go over it, not to get angry or anybody to give issues, just data. So in the U.S., the child population is 75,266,842. The number of COVID-positive cases has been, for children, has been 4,593,721. The number of COVID deaths, and this is from January of 2020, has been 402 in the entire U.S. out of 75 million children. None of those 402 children deserve to die, but children have died every year, every single year, from respiratory diseases, whether it was flu, pneumonia. Twice as many kids died from pneumonia as from COVID. And it's also important to understand that the positive case numbers, to understand where they come from. Every child that goes into the hospital has to be tested for COVID. If they come in because they broke their leg from falling off a bike, they're tested for COVID. They may not have symptoms, they may not be sick, but if they test positive, they go into the positive case numbers. The positive case numbers should not be the concern. The concern should be hospitalizations and also deaths. That's the data that you base your risk-benefit assessments on. It is never going to be safe for children 100%. It has never been. It will not be in 5 years. It will not be in 20 years. We all want to save our children, and this is coming from a parent who has watched their child on a ventilator. So I have actually seen that. But you don't force healthy children to do unnecessary steps that are not backed by science. I mean, these are numbers. You can look this up. The coronavirus, so the masks, let's talk about the masks. The cloth masks are almost useless for aerosolized pathogen. And there's no one who can tell you any different, because that's the case, and you can look that data up. Surgical masks are a little bit more. The N95 is the best, but if children aren't changing these when they become wet or soiled, they're increasing the risk of other respiratory infections and bacterial infections, and that will end up with more sick kids.
Okay, next is Christy Calabera.
First, I want to make a couple of observations. We had two teachers up here that felt the need to pull off the mask to speak to you clearly so you could understand them, okay? I need you to really think about what that meant. Excuse me. The fact remains that's an important process part for children to learn from. Expressions, emotions. If it was important for her to say it to you, it's important for us to have our children understand what the teacher is saying. That's my first observation. The second one is we see a gentleman in scrubs that said he worked all day. He's exhausted. He works with COVID patients. He's here with the same clothes on. I'm sure he didn't change, all right? He's got the mask on. Not sure if he changed that mask, but the reality is that's an observation. So we're either going to take it serious or we're not. That's my observation here. I think anyone else can look at that. I'm not making it up. It's right here in front of us, okay? I would like to know what the protocols are for the masks, because I find them disgusting. They're like a petri dish. We have a scientist here. Maybe she will test some of these masks. Do you have on your protocol daily some of these masks come off and you test what's in them? Because I'm pretty sure when people touch them and they're moist and then they touch other things, it's affecting the area. I love how the kids are getting blamed for all this stuff. We have more people with vaccines today than we did last year, yet our deaths seem like they're getting worse, okay? I also want to focus on hospital protocol. Those are the rules in which the hospitals conduct what happens with the COVID patient, okay? We need to look into that. That's pretty serious, okay? They get rules too. They get formularies that only let them prescribe certain medications, which is what I want to bring up next. There's a website, and it's Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance. I would recommend everybody look at it, okay? Nobody wants to get COVID. I certainly don't want anyone to get COVID, and the accusation that I don't have a mask on means I want to kill everybody in the room is asinine, okay? The reality is there's things that can protect ourselves, okay? It's called our natural immune system, and we could build it. We could build on it and make it strong. On this website, it tells you what you should be doing to help fight this. Now, most Americans are what? We're overweight. A lot of people on prescriptions. So obviously people are going to get sick, right? So what do we do? Is anybody doing any of this stuff? So I'm going to say, I'm going to pass this out. People do what they want. But I would highly recommend a successful prevention level versus something that looks good and makes you feel like you're actually helping people, okay? Because we're a visual society, and I get that. But I don't feel any better about someone running around with a mask than I feel less about somebody that doesn't. Because it is about personal choice, and it is about what you think is right. But the fact remains the healthy immune system fights off disease, sicknesses, and everything else. So I'm going to pass these out.
Thank you, Ms. Calabert. Next is Crystal Charette.
Good evening. I'm Crystal Sheriff. I'm a member of the Somerville Education Association, but more importantly, I'm a teacher and a parent of Dorchester District 2. I was not planning on speaking tonight, and definitely not as one of the last people. The plan was just to show up and support and represent my DD2 family, especially after our recent tragedy. However, I felt compelled after receiving yet another email asking for info about my classes for contact tracing, and then another email from a worried parent of a quarantined student. I have more students in quarantine in just 6 days into the school year than I ever had last year. I have heard and read that we are prioritizing the health and welfare of our students and staff, with safety measures being followed. However, that is not what I am seeing. Normal with caution is what we were told. However, I must say that we are more normal with observations, because I see very little cautious action taking place. Here is just some of what I observed. Students packed on buses without masks. 17 to 28 students in my personal classroom, in a closed classroom without an air purifier. Yes, I've heard they're being installed. They're not all there yet. 2,000 plus students in halls between classes, most with no masks, without a chance of social distancing. How are we contact tracing that? Groups of students roaming without social distancing or no chance of contact tracing during lunch. Normal with caution is not realistic. If we are going to require masks, we need to be taking actions to limit movement, allow for social distancing. Let it be hybrid learning or some other solution, but we do need to be taking precautions. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Next up is Ken Greenstreet.
I didn't come here to talk about COVID tonight, but I also observed that there's been no priority on sanitizing this area with all the emotion that's going on. On March 2nd, 2002, United States Army MH-47 helicopter attempted to insert a United States SEAL team on a mountaintop in Afghanistan. Entering into a hover, the helicopter took heavy fire, was damaged, and had to abort the insert, but not before Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts fell off the ramp 10 feet to the snow below. He fought alone for about 20 to 30 minutes until he succumbed to his wounds. The Al-Qaeda people on the summit retrieved his body, castrated him, and shoved his genitals into his mouth and mutilated his body. Hours later, his teammates, knowing the danger but not knowing Neil Roberts was dead, came back to the same exact spot to rescue him. What happened next became known as the Battle of Roberts Ridge and led to the first time the actions leading to a Medal of Honor was recorded on video. You can search YouTube for the first Medal of Honor ever recorded and watch it for yourself. Because of Neil Roberts and so many others like him, I felt compelled to come here again tonight. 2014, Joe Biden stated, quote, "There's nothing special about being an American. None of you can define for me what an American is," close quote. I can give you a simple definition. An American is a citizen that lives in a country that has been blessed with extraordinary freedom guaranteed by the United States Constitution and defended by men like Neil Roberts. Americans are the only group of people to ever travel to far-off lands and to have been willing to die so that others might have the chance to live free if they so choose. Afghanis have not chosen. I have a letter from Melanie Barton, the Senior Education Advisor to Governor McMaster, stating state law requires the teaching of the Constitution. The letter sounds great. The reality is a stark difference. We have an American population that will burn police cars in the streets when their sports teams wins, but won't bat an eye when told to wear a mask while their elected officials thumb their nose at the same requirement. A private citizen had to ask you to put Constitution Day on your calendar. This letter speaks of civics classes, but yet a board member is still asking for civics classes to be taught. We have a population ignorant of the freedoms they have. Ask anyone what the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment are. These freedoms are not guaranteed if neglected, ignored, or not defended. I'm not suggesting we teach students the desire to serve in the military. Let them decide. I'm asking you, you put as your number one priority the teaching of the Constitution. America needs it. We need it. We're falling apart. Specifically in detail, teach what the Founding Fathers looked to for ideas. Don't be afraid. The Bible was one resource. What was the background to the writing of the Bill of Rights? When the news is filled with shootings, officials and televisions blame the gun and not the person. That's it. I got more, but you guys get the gist of it.
Thank you, Mr. Winston. Matthew Hirsch.
Good evening, board members. Thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight. I know it's getting late. We got to get out of here, so I'm going to make this short and sweet. A lot was talked tonight about the general protection of everyone, how we're going to keep our students safe, how we're going to keep our teachers safe, how we're going to keep parents safe. If a kid gets COVID in school and brings it home, could be a devastating effect. I think one of the things that we collectively see tonight is we all have a general interest in safety and how are we going to deal with this. I'm glad I'm not in your position. It's definitely a tough thing to deal with. But there's a variety of different things that my company has done, and I'm just up here to kind of share some of those ideas to help mitigate those. They actually don't require masks because they have done the research and feel that masks are generally not the best way to prevent the spread of COVID. What they've come across is that the best way to prevent the spread of COVID is to address the touch points throughout the schools, in their case, the office buildings. So they hired somebody to come in and walk the halls and just, address the touch points, the doors to the bathrooms, the door handles, the desks, the computer, the printers, the monitors that are up there in the cafeteria. They've decided to go ahead and just address those touch points. They use an antibiotic spray, and they just come along with a wipe and they wipe it down. And that has really had a big impact on how they handle things in headquarters. This is in San Antonio, Texas. They're doing the same thing here in Charleston. And, but the idea is that, you know, we're addressing it from a scientific standpoint as opposed to the idea of wearing this mask. And, you know, couple that with other things such as temperatures, making sure you're not coming to work sick, making sure you're taking care of yourself, was mentioned earlier with vitamins. All that type of guidance was provided. One of the things they issued to all employees is a bottle of hand sanitizer. And it's a clip. You can clip it on your belt. You can walk around the office all day long. If you feel like you need to spritz it, you know, you're going to sit down and eat your lunch. You put it in your hand. You rub it together. You're good to go. And it's really kept the cases down with employees associated with the company. So, you know, you guys are in a tough spot, and there is a lot of passion as to how to go about doing this. You got to do what you got to do. If the mandate comes down for masks, it comes down for masks. You can't help that. But I think that, you know, quality air makes a big difference. There are ionizers you can put in the air conditioning systems, which is one of the other mitigating tools that they use to reduce the quality, to improve the quality of the air. And those costs are not overly expensive. They're devices that they could actually just put into the air handling units, and they didn't cost that much to add in and to operate. This hand sanitizer is cheap. A lot of the alcohol manufacturers are producing that stuff in bulk, so they're able to get their company logo. So there's other options, I guess, is the thought there. And so I hear the passion, and I wish you guys best of luck. My son graduated from Ashley Ridge. Go Swamp Foxes. He's now a Clemson Tigers, so I appreciate all that you guys have done for us.
Thank you. Okay. That ends our public comments. So now, board members, I need a motion to go in executive session for legal advice, a contractual matter regarding the town of Somerville, and an intergovernmental agreement, the TIF. And then we will be returning to open session to take any actions as needed by the executive session. So if I could have a motion.
moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
7-0. Thank you all very much for coming. Okay, I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Mr. Mitchum, all in favor?
Aye.
6 and 1 absent. Okay, do we have any motions for our executive session?
Madam Chair, I would like to move that Dorchester District 2 enter into a TIF agreement with the town of Somerville as we discussed earlier and as was presented to the board in executive session.
Okay, I have a motion. Ms. Robinson is going to second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
6 and 1 absent. Okay, I think that is it. If no one else has anything for the betterment of the board, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do you have a second? Second by Ms. Wimberly. All in favor?
Aye.
6 and 1 absent. Have a great evening.
Bye, Farnsworth.
Aye.